everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. This is the podcast where I talk about your personal, professional, and spiritual growth, and where we talk about your stories to help you go from stuck to growth. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about something that is really personal. It's something that I have experienced this year, even. And it's something that I believe everybody experiences at one point in their life or another. And I'm talking about staying connected. I'm not just talking about staying connected with other people, but I'm also going to be talking about staying connected to yourself and staying connected to God. We live in a society today that really glorifies, for lack of better terms, busyness. There is a thought leader, an entrepreneur that has been going around social media and saying, look, if you want better friends, then you need to get used to hearing from them less because better friends are busy friends. In some ways, I agree with that. In some ways, I disagree with that. But either way, we live in a society today that glorifies busyness. And when that happens, we can see success as being measured by how packed our calendars are, how busy we are, how much we can accomplish in a day. For me, I love to make to-do lists because I get satisfaction every time I check something off. And every time that I get to check something off, like I said, I feel satisfaction. And so my list ended up being really long because I have a bunch of different things that I can check off. It's going to make me feel better. But in the pursuit of trying to be more productive, I typically lose something very valuable. And I lose my connection with other people. And so if this is something that you have experienced for yourself, this episode it's for you. And maybe you surround yourself by people frequently, but yet somehow you still feel completely alone. Maybe you've been so focused on the daily grind that you forget to check in on yourself, check in with others, and your spiritual life and church attendance may go on the wayside. And so today I'm going to explore why disconnection happens, what it feels like, and if disconnection is something that you're experiencing, how you can feel connected again, what you can do in order to find that connection. And so I'm going to be doing that by analyzing some psychological research, as I typically do, but also using scripture in order to help move us into a deeper connection, no matter how busy life may get for us. And so I want to talk to you about what disconnection feels like and why it happens in the first place. So, first, let me ask you a question. Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? You feel like you're on autopilot? You're not interested in it. You are just living it. You're working hard. You are taking care of all of the responsibilities that you need to be taken care of. You're showing up for people. But ultimately, you feel really drained. You feel physically empty, spiritually empty, emotionally empty. I know this feeling very well. Like I said, I've experienced it a lot. As you know, I have a word of the year, and my word of the year a couple of years ago was opportunity. And with opportunity, I said yes to a lot of different things, and that was really draining for me. And it made me neglect a lot of really important areas in my life. And so that has really, really drained me. So, like I said, I know this feeling all too well. And as we're getting ready for the holidays, some of you are getting even busier. The Christmas time is some of your busiest times of the year, whether that is professionally or whether that's bouncing around from family to family, coordinating all sorts of things, who got what present. But for others, this is a time of slowing down and rest. And so um, whatever season you're in, there are areas where we can be busy, where we can feel drained, and so, as I've said, there were seasons in my life where I was chasing goals. I was working a lot of hours. I was making sure that I met every single responsibility, obligation I had, but ultimately I felt numb. I hate that feeling. I was constantly doing, but I was not being. And disconnection is not something that always hits you as soon as you're going through these motions. It's something that often creeps up on you, and it feels gross when it finally gets there. One day you wake up and you realize that you haven't had a meaningful conversation in who knows how long. You've been way too busy to call your friends, you've been too tired to check in with your family, and you've been too distracted to pray. You have been too busy to take care of yourself, put yourself in a healthy routine. You are there, but you're not present. That is what it feels like to be disconnected. It is a gross feeling, and many of us experience that, but we may not put one and one together to equal two and understand why it happens. Again, I've told you that my word of the year a couple of years ago was opportunity. I took on more and more and more. That created stress, and ultimately it overloaded me. And the first reason that disconnection happens is chronic stress and overloading yourself. So when you're overwhelmed, here's what happens. Your body, or excuse me, your brain goes from, your brain will actually shift into survival mode. And so from a psychological perspective, this can trigger, fight, flight, or freeze. And that is created by a response of cortisol, which is the body's primary stress hormone. So this hormone helps us to focus on immediate tasks like finishing work, paying bills, solving problems. But while that is a benefit of it, the downside is it can also make it really hard for us to connect emotionally with other people. So the constant pressure that we feel to perform, produce, provide, it creates a mindset where everything feels urgent, everything's a priority, there's no space at all for emotional connection. And I'll even go so far as to say there's no time for emotional rest. We become extremely focused on what needs to be done, and we forget who we need to be present for. The Bible speaks directly into this. So if we look in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, it says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." God knows exactly how we feel. He knows exactly how we can become consumed by all the busyness that happens in our life. People will say that God never gives you more than you can handle. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. God gives you more than you can handle all the time, because that proves that you need to put faith in Him, that you rely on Him. And so our lives can be more than we can handle sometimes. That's when we need to rely on God. And He invites us to surrender that stress to Him, trusting that He's going to guard our hearts and our minds with His peace. It is very easy for us to say, okay, well, it's my life, I'm in complete control. That's not true. We have to take our stress, our workload, we have to present that to God. And if we present our stress to God and it's something that we're still worried about, we haven't given it to Him. And so I want you to think about that. And the next reason that we create disconnect within our lives is through emotional numbing. Sometimes, like I said, life can get to be too much, and we can distract ourselves by engaging with social media or watching TV. Anything that we do to ourselves to keep us from sitting in the moment and actually thinking about the situation that we're in. Anything that we do to cope, um, anything that we do to numb ourselves. Like I said, that can look like watching TV, engaging in social media, maybe overworking, constantly bouncing from project to project, engaging in unhealthy habits. Maybe you smoke, maybe you drink every weekend. There's a term in psychology called emotional avoidance. And that is where we push aside, we suppress our uncomfortable feelings. That way we don't have to deal with them. I promise you that at some point in your life, you are going to be dealing with those emotions. Whether that's voluntarily or whether that is involuntarily, those emotions are going to come out somewhere and you're going to have to deal with them. The problem is when we go into emotional avoidance, we're numbing the pain, but at the same time, we also numb a lot of positive emotions like joy, love, and even connection. We become really emotionally distant, and that's not just from ourselves, that is from other people, that's from God, the relationships that are important within our lives. And in Matthew 11:28, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest is not just a physical thing, it's not just a physical feeling, it is emotional and it's spiritual. We often think of, okay, well, I've had a long day at work, so I'm going to rest. I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to throw on my favorite TV show. And yes, that might be physical rest for some of you, but we often neglect the emotional and the spiritual side. And so when we bring our weariness to God, God promises rest that goes beyond anything that we can do for ourselves. And it's really important to lean into that. And the third way that we create disconnect in our lives is through what I like to call relational drift. Disconnection from others is not something that just happens overnight. It's something that happens through our decisions day after day. It's a gradual drift, and life gets busy. I know firsthand life gets very busy. We assume that our loved ones just know how much we care. They they know how busy we are all the time. That's not true, but they may not understand why we're not reaching out, and it's important for meaningful relationships to have an investment in them. We have to invest in the relationships that matter to us. It has to be an intentional action, because without any kind of regular connection, it doesn't matter how close you once were, they become weaker and weaker and weaker over time. And it is really important for us to stay connected with one another. And it talks about that in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. We are reminded that two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Part of God's design for our lives is for us to engage within our community, for us to connect with our community. We're not meant to do life all by ourselves. We need to surround ourselves with people that can lift us up when we fall and who can remind us of God's love when we feel distant from that. There are seasons where even myself, someone who's going to get their master's in divinity, even I feel disconnected from God. That is a normal human feeling, but we need to surround ourselves by people that are going to remind us of God's love and his call for connection. And when it comes to connecting with other people, I think it's impossible for us to connect with other people in a really meaningful way if we do not first connect with ourselves. If you are not right with yourself, no other relationship that you are a part of is going to be right either. You can't go from friendship to friendship, relationship to relationship, expecting this to be the one that fixes all your problems. You have to connect with yourself before you can connect with other people. And that is something that takes a lot of people many, many years in life to figure out, and some never figure that out. Connecting with yourself is one of the most overlooked forms of disconnection in life, period. When is the last time that you stopped and you asked yourself, how am I really doing? That is a difficult question to answer, but it's actually a really good question for you to ask yourself to find out where you are in life right now, even which stage of stuck you're in. If you haven't checked out the Stages of Stuck episode, I highly encourage you to go check that out. We live in a world, again, that really rewards productivity, being really busy, but it rarely encourages us to be self-aware. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to feel connected to ourselves. And so, yet, self-awareness is not only essential to relationships with other people, but it helps us to connect to ourselves emotionally and spiritually. And so I want to tell you some ways that you can reconnect with yourself. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to focus on a daily emotional check-in. Take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, put it in your phone, write it in your journal that you write at the end of the day, revisit this question each and every day. But I want you to take 5 minutes and ask yourself these questions. If you're driving as you're listening to this, answer as we go. Pause this episode, think through these questions, whatever you have to do. But the first question you have to answer is, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling sad? If you have an iPhone like I do, there's a mindfulness journal or a mindfulness app, and that actually allows you to log, how am I feeling right now? And then it asks you to pick an emotion that describes how you're feeling right now. I think that is a really valuable tool for you to use to connect to yourself. I'm not sure if something like this is available for anybody that doesn't have an iPhone, but you can also just ask yourself this question each and every day. The second question is, what do I need? It's okay to be a little selfish here, but ask yourself this question. What do I need emotionally, spiritually, or physically? It's okay and important for you to know what it is that you need. Sometimes if I feel disconnected or I feel sad, my wife will say, hey, what do you need from me right now? And more often than not, my answer is, I'm not sure, because I don't know myself what it is that I need. So I don't know what it is that I need for her to do, from her. You have to understand what it is that you need emotionally, spiritually, and physically, and that only comes from asking yourself that question and being intentional. We can invest intentionally in ourselves emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And the third question that I want you to ask yourself is, what is God asking me to let go of or surrender today? I learned a long time ago that I had a problem with forgiveness. I hold on to words very closely, and they can ring in my head for years and years to come. And it could be haunting sometimes. I, more often than not, need to remind myself that I have to forgive myself and I have to forgive other people. I feel that the only person that unforgiveness harms is yourself. If you are somebody that wrestles with unforgiveness, God is asking you to let go of that today. But for some of you, God may be asking you to let go of something completely different. The first couple of times that you go through this exercise, it's going to feel uncomfortable. But naming your emotions helps to release the weight of everything that you've been carrying. The second thing that I want you to do to reconnect with yourself is to practice mindful stillness. We, again, what we've talked about, society glorifies busyness. And so in today's day and age, stillness is something that is a lost art. And in Psalms 46:10, God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is not, hear me out here. Stillness is not about inactivity. It's about creating space for God to speak, heal, and guide us. So start your day by spending 5, 10, 15 minutes, you pick however long, in just quiet prayer, meditation, deep breathing. I want you to invite God into your life. I want you to sit in that stillness and let God give you rest and refresh your soul. We are called to tithe with our time, our talent, and our treasure. Many of us are good at tithing with our treasure, but we are not good at tithing with our time or our talent. And so by starting your day with prayer, meditation, stillness, we are tithing with our time. And the third thing that I want you to do to reconnect with yourself is learn to express yourself in creative ways. That can look like journaling, art, music, even taking a walk where you can release whatever emotional tension has built up throughout the day. To reconnect with yourself, your authentic self, who you really are. Research in psychology shows that creative expression can improve mood, reduce stress, and increase emotional resilience. When you create, you tap into the image of God within you, the creator of all things. And once you have performed these exercises, you're able to answer the question of what it is that you need, how you're feeling. Then you can move into how you can reconnect with other people. It's important to know that relationships don't happen on accident. They happen through intentionality. How you meet somebody could be an accident. Could be something that you never expected to happen, sure. But the actual development of the relationship has to be done intentionally. And if we look at research done by Dr. John Gottman, he shows that strong relationships are built through small, consistent acts of kindness. So he calls these bids of connection simple actions like asking, "How was your day?" or sending a quick "thinking of you" text. I love just reaching out to people that I haven't talked to in a long time. Just, "Hey, hope you have a good day. Thinking about you. Hope that all is well." And the Bible encourages this same exact thing within First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as, in fact, you are doing. God calls us to build each other up, not just when it's inconvenient, but also when it is inconvenient. Connecting with other people is something that really takes intentionality. It's not something that can be passive. If a relationship has become distant because there was harm that was done, I really encourage you to reach out to them and do your best to reconcile that. That may require some forgiveness. If you're wrestling with unforgiveness, once again, give that to God. Be the bigger person. If it's somebody you haven't talked to in years and years, that there's been a lot of harm, it's going to be hard to reconnect with them. I understand that. Sometimes people leave your life for a reason. Not everybody you lose is a loss. That's important to know. It's important to have a clean circle. If you have an unclean circle, you have a lot of unhealthy people in your life, go watch the Creating a Healthy Circle episode. But ultimately, the disconnection that we're talking about in this episode today is just people that you haven't talked to in a long time because life has gotten busy. Just reach out to them periodically with intention. Again, there are people in my life that I haven't talked to in months, maybe even a year, but I will still send them a, "Hey, just I hope you're having a great day." It doesn't take long. On a lot of messaging apps right now, there are ways that you can schedule text messages to go out to make that even easier. And it's important to know that disconnection in your life, it doesn't have to be a norm. It doesn't have to be normal. It shouldn't be normal. You should fight to feel connected to yourself and to others. We are not meant to do this life alone. You can feel connected to yourself. You can feel connected to other people. You can feel connected to God. Even when life gets really busy, you feel really overwhelmed, you need to take small, intentional steps each and every day, small habits. Check in with your friends, check in with your families, send a thoughtful message, and spend a moment to sit in your emotion. Ask yourself those questions that I asked you, and spend a moment to just sit in the stillness of God. You are never alone, whether you are sitting in a room full of people and you feel alone. You are never alone. You were created for connection. And so just some reminders. Life's always going to be busy. But disconnection does not have to be the result. Small intentional steps are what's going to lead you to a deeper connection with yourself, with other people, and with God. And so I want you to take just 5 minutes today to check in with yourself, to reach out to somebody you care about, and to spend a moment in stillness and invite God's peace into your life. Matthew chapter 6, verse 34 says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." So I want to issue a challenge for you for this week. I want you to commit to just one intentional act of connection, whether that's with yourself, whether that is with other people, whether that's with God. I want you to commit to just one intentional act of connection. You are never alone. You were created for connection. And I want you to share this episode with someone who needs some encouragement, and let's keep growing together. Thank you so much for bearing with me through my sniffles. I'm grateful for all of you. Like I said, go ahead, share this episode with other people if you're not already a part of the YouTube family, or wherever you are listening, on your commute or on your walk, wherever you're listening. Thank you so much. Make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you download, make sure that you share in order to help other people on their growth journey. And so thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. Stay intentional, stay connected, keep growing, and tune in next time. Let's grow.